There are some freaking great new retro games being made these days. Joystick. Retro means of an old style, but it can either be classic games on classic systems or newer games in a classic style. Some game developers have been knocking it out of the park these days with some excellent new retro games that make the artistic choice to not only embrace 8-bit and 16-bit graphics, but many are new games for classic hardware. I have 3 new retro games to talk about: Full Void, 4-Spot, and Full Quiet. Now, onto the games. Full Void. Full Void on Evercade is an amazing experience. It is a little different of a release for the Evercade platform because it is one whole game on a cartridge, but it's a very rewarding interactive cinematic gaming experience. It is a hand-animated cinematic adventure game that is heavily inspired by Prince of Persia, Out of This World, and other excellent cinematic action-adventure games. The graphic art style straddles the line between high-end 16-bit computers and 32-bit 2D games. It really feels right up there with some of the best animated games of the Amiga and the Sega Saturn. It was developed in the UK by Out of the Bit, and it's proudly wearing its 2D cinematic PC and gaming inspiration on its sleeves. It stars a gender non-specific teenager in a hoodie who is alone in a foreboding, slightly futuristic but empty urban environment, who is on the run from some genuinely creepy sentient AI robots that are out to get them. These robots are hunting the teenager, and the stakes and tensions are high as you are on the run from some very creepy foes. The many deaths come quick and plentiful, but you are almost instantly restarted at a recent automatic checkpoint, so it never truly gets very frustrating. Full Void features some very well thought out environmental puzzles that will require you to learn skills, have good timing, and require you to think and problem solve to get through them. What's amazing is that they are fully integrated into the environment and the story. It really seems like this is what the teenager has to do to get through the dire situations that they are in. The puzzles seem logical and well integrated. You have to be both quick on your feet and to think on your feet. The game has an incredible sensation of tension because the robot foes that are hunting you down are only kept at bay by your ability to think and run rather than fighting them. The environments have an excellent logical consistency, and they really feel like places. They are forever deadly but not overwhelming if you stay on your toes. Early on, you find a small robot buddy who you have to program by giving them a series of commands to help you solve the puzzles. This often has them move to a particular place and flip a switch at the same time that you have to do something else. The story deals with AI interacting with humanity, free will, and morality. The character animation is fluid and expressive. It feels great to run around and grab ledges and pull yourself up. You are a quick teen, but not a particularly strong or powerful one. You have to maneuver through the environment without hurting yourself with the many hazards or by falling to your demise. An important innovation of this game is that you're not particularly safe in the cinematics. You have to occasionally run and duck in the cinematic animations to get away from the creepy robots. The environmental artwork is colorful, moody, and stunning. The modern platforms, including the Evercade, could display any color that they wanted, but they deliberately chose a limited palette for each scene to give them a consistent artistic feel. The music is great and integrates well with the many moody environments. The soundtrack is also available as Amiga mod files. I showed a bit of this game to Marcy, and she told me to stop after a minute of seeing the game because she wanted to play through it herself without having any of the surprises spoiled. I have only included about 3 different scenes in this video that happen in the first third of the game, and there's quite a lot which I'm not putting in this video because I don't want to spoil it for you. It takes about 4 to 5 hours to play through, and it's a good time the entire way. There's a perfect amount of tension, and you never feel completely overwhelmed, but you never really get to completely relax. It is one of the best cinematic platformers that I have played in a long time. It's hard to explain it, but it is comfortably dystopian, cozy, and creepy. That's right there at the highlights of the 16-bit 2D computer gameplay. Full Void is available on a plethora of platforms and is very affordable at around $15 or less for the digital versions, or $20 on Evercade cartridge. And I also think that the Nintendo Switch would be a great way to play this because there's just something about playing it on a handheld console that makes it seem a little bit more immersive in the cozy and creepy dystopia of Full Void. 4Spot. 4Spot is a charming, fun puzzle game for NES made by Eric Brox and a small team of folks who are into the NES developer scene. They worked on the game for about 3 years. The game's designer, Eric Brox, actually commented on one of my previous videos and sent me a .NES file to review, but this is my independent review without feedback. The digital NES file will set you back $10, but there's also a physical release on NES cartridge, which is the result of the successful Kickstarter campaign. It works great on the original NES and Famicom hardware and my retro USB AVS and a variety of emulators. It is similar to the classic Sokoban logic game where you push boxes around a warehouse. In 4Spot, you play a cute robot dude who has to push boxes into square holes to allow you to get to the next screen in a series of increasingly difficult spatial logic puzzles. You can only push one box at a time and you cannot pull them. You're required to walk behind the box so you can push it into the direction that you need it to go. It starts off simple enough, but quickly requires you to think ahead and plan for the results of your actions. It occasionally takes multiple attempts once you realize that you pushed yourself into a corner without a path forward. There are instant restarts of the level, and it never gets too frustrating. There's a good sense of progression, and the skills that you need to solve one level will come in handy later on. Often, you need to push some boxes multiple times to clear a path that you need. There's a real sense of accomplishment when you finally get through a level. There's no animation, and 4Spot moves to the available space, and that actually reminds me of Bokosuka Wars and Apple II games. The music is quite good, and the graphics are colorful, comfortable, and nostalgic for the early days of Famicom and NES, where each character is made up of a single NES sprite. There are 3 difficulty modes with 64 levels per mode for a total of 192 puzzles in the entire game. I got some great vibes of Adventure of Lolo, and that is some very good company for 4Spot to be in. Since I have both a NES and Famicom cartridge versions of the EverDrive N8, I can play 4Spot on all of my original NES and Famicom hardware NES clone systems, RetroPie, or Mu Mini. Heck, I can even run this on my Android phone. I'm glad to see modern indie NES developers handling different kinds of games, and Forcebot is a genuinely fun puzzle game that embraces the design goal of being easy to learn and difficult to master. Forcebot is a smart game that makes you, the player, feel smart. Full Quiet. Full Quiet is a very ambitious game. It is a surprisingly complex, side-scrolling survival horror post-apocalyptic Metroidvania game that tries to be an open-world NES game. It features time-of-day changes with graphical palettes that change throughout the day. It has pretty darn impressive parallax scrolling on the NES. Time and time again, Full Quiet punches well above its weight class, and the developers were able to pull off gameplay concepts that developed way after the NES era. It is very impressive and well made. It's surprisingly robust, and I'm still impressed that they were able to pull it off. It is set on a rural mountain where the world has been overrun by demonic monsters of various sizes. It follows the story of a father who is trying to find his son after they were separated while fighting the monsters. Our protagonist talks to Pap, a ham radio enthusiast and rural wilderness survival expert. There is a network of ranger station-like camps with radios all over the mountain, and you need to find your way from one camp to another, and then restore power to the camp, and finally restore and tune the various radios. After doing that, you are put in contact with various other survivors, and the story is unlocked by talking to these survivors who are trying to figure out just what the heck is going on. The game is a combination of exploration, puzzle solving, and combat, and there is quite a variety of landscapes, creatures, tools, weapons, and characters. Later on in the game, you uncover cryptic messages of research facilities and hints of a lost civilization that might be the cause of the monsters. This game is surprisingly tough and does not hold your hand. In order to progress slightly, I had to read some playthroughs and even watch a Let's Play to figure out how to get the basic part of the first camp set up. But I can definitely see how once you get over the first couple hurdles, it can unlock a much bigger world on the mountain. It is nostalgic in its execution that it actually is an 8-bit game that runs on real NES hardware, yet it is able to pull off a lot of gameplay elements from later, more powerful systems. Full Quiet is available on PC, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch for $10, and a physical cartridge is available on NES that you can play on original hardware. I was sent a review code for the Switch version, but I also played a lot of the NES version. Connecting with people remotely and trying to reconnect civilization is very much a big theme, and there is the balance of isolation and connectiveness. It actually shares similar thematic elements with Full Void, and I don't think that it's accidental that both of these games had a serious, significant part of their development during the national COVID shutdown. It's going to be interesting to see how the global trauma that humanity went through influences artistic endeavors such as these awesome indie games. I really love talking about classic retro games on classic systems and also newer retro games on modern platforms that connect to their retro lineage. I have a ton of great videos in the works, and you need to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss them. Also, tell your friends and enemies who are into retro video games about this channel. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome. Play retro.